All right, welcome to Ep02, Season 2 of AIS Podcast. As always, co-host Nate Dowg in
What
the
up?
house. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good.
Good.
I always love Tuesdays. Most people,
Damn.
I don't know, like, I feel like Tuesday's more of a Monday for me.
Do you just not come in Monday?
No, I come in.
Just
But
sleep
Tuesday's a day I block out on my schedule to just be very present here in the office. I mean, mainly because of this, but then also it's the best way for me to be able to kind of be stationary and have everyone kind of come to me for meetings and
Yeah.
get very deep on higher level conversations. It's the
Are
day
Mondays
that
kind of your meeting day? Like everyone, you have your team meetings and stuff like that?
I mean, we have those every day, but really, Mondays are sort of one of those where you come in off a weekend and there's some fires to put out. There are some conversations that need to, get things moving to address, where we left off the following week. But,
Yeah.
I try to just, my biggest lesson learned in the last couple of years is just focus on the stuff you can control and don't focus on the stuff that really doesn't matter. And that's been helpful. But
Yeah.
overall, like Mondays seem to be the day that I come in and I have some anxiety. Did you ever feel like this? Maybe you did. I don't know. Some people think I'm crazy when I say this, but like when I was in school and studying and maybe even in high school, I hated Sunday evening because it was
Sunday
like
scaries.
Day,
Yeah, the scaries.
I'm like, God, I didn't do my homework. I'm behind on this. It just freaked me out. So now I kind
don't
of like
sleep on Sundays, dude. I sleep maybe 2 hours. And it's not because I'm anxious or like nervous, but I can't wait to go to work on Monday. Like, I just can't wait. I literally wake up at some days, I just pop wide awake at 1 a.m. and I just come here and I just start doing stuff. And I went to, I don't know. I love Mondays. They're my favorite. But they are like how we handled Mondays, because we used to always do our job starts on Mondays, which is like a super heavy lift because we have our field ops leadership meeting, and then we have our takeoff meetings, we have our sales meeting. We kind of like set the table for the week and like do all of our weekly deliverables and goals and all that. And it got to a point where it was like, you look at the clock, it's already 12 o'clock on a Monday. You had 2 job starts that you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to get to those jobs today. So we switched all of our job starts to Wednesdays.
okay.
And we made all of our accounts receivables to Mondays. So every Monday's a payday. You start off the week with a full bank, it's nice.
Whoa.
And then every Wednesday is a job start. And then the third week of the month is our AP. That's the sad week when we actually have to get rid of our money. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So you said every Thursday?
every third week of the month. So we basically the third, fourth, and first weeks of a month is AR weeks, and on Monday we get paid. And then on the third week of the month, it's AP week, usually the 20th of the month, because we structure all of our stuff net 30 batched on the 20th. So like all of our trade partners, everyone has to submit their invoice the previous month before the 20th in order to get paid the next month on the 20th. And if they submit on the 21st, tough titty. You don't get it. We're way too nice though. Like we're way too flexible. I got this by being a subcontractor actually, because residentially being like the GC, it's so much softer of a world compared to public work and like heavy commercial as a subcontractor. Those GCs just straight bend you over and do whatever they want. Like their contract, and you have to. It's disgusting. I have one right now. It was like $70,000 subcontract. Actually, no, it was like hundreds of thousand. They've only paid us like 30, and then they tried to supplement us on the job for almost 100% of the remaining contract value, and then tell us that we almost owe them money for working on their job. And I was like, no. I sent it to the attorneys, and now we're all fighting, and I might have to fly out to Pennsylvania in a few weeks to go to mediation with this crazy CFO lady. And yeah, dude, commercials. But yeah, I got all these great ideas from these GCs because I've been screwed so many times now that it's like, okay, there's a middle ground here of like firm but not screwing someone over, and like we should probably walk that line, of like just being firm with how we handle business. Bidness.
Yeah.
With the
Businesses,
the bidness.
being firm and establishing a partnership has to be the topic of conversation at first, I think. And when you start to really discuss, hey, look, where is all of this money coming from and how does it flow? And it needs to make sense for you. You need to be profitable, but so do we. And we're not the bank. Therefore, when we come to you and ask for this money, it's not because we just are hoping to sit fat and buy Corvettes all day. It's because we need, real profit margins to continue to sustain business and keep payroll flowing.
But that's what sucks about California. As a GC, you are the bank. 100%. Man. And that's what's messed up is there's like the rules for thee but not for me type mentality with our subcontractors. And when we switched over to this type of building process, we lost a lot of subcontractors, which was for the better because they couldn't afford to do things by the rules, right? Because like by law, I think we have 60 days to pay once we get paid, right? There's no such thing as due on receipt. That's not a law or anything. That's a preference. Now, as a GC, though, I can only charge $1,000 or 10% of the contract value, whichever's less. Our average job size is almost $500,000, right? 10% of that, $50K, should be my deposit at a minimum. But I can only charge $1,000, and then you have to go. If your material and subcontractor value is greater than 50% of that, well, up front I'm paying 50% to all of my subs against the law, right? But they hide it, like cabinetry, for example, or plumbing. They run all of their overhead on the materials, so it's like you're buying a product,
right?
And then their labor is like $1,500, but the cabinets cost $55. Oh yeah, the cabinets are $55,000, but the labor install is only like $1,800. It's like, no, you pulled all your overhead into that damn material line, charge us 50% of it to get around this bullshit law that I have to abide by, and now I'm cash flow negative. So, long story short, California sucks, and I should be able to just charge someone 30% deposit and then invoice schedule based off of inspections and critical path completion. And we all move on with our lives, but not in California. What do you guys do in Tennessee? What kind of do you guys have laws there, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically, as a licensed GC, they don't allow you to take more than 33% as a deposit scheduling fee. So
that's fair.
That's fair.
It's totally fair.
For us, we do when you are in conversation with a client and they are buying your time, we charge for that, and that's the 33% scheduling fee. And then the day we mobilize out to start the project, to demo or prep or whatever we're doing on site, the day we start and boots hit the ground, there's another 33%. So we're 66%
of remainder or of original contract value.
Of original contract value.
No shit. So you're 66% invoiced day one. So you're over. That's awesome. Kind of.
Yeah. I mean, you basically at that point can look at profit margins and see, and everything's job costed, so we know exactly what we're going to make going into it, provided that we don't have any crazy sideways issues that we can't change order. I hate change orders. I'm not a contractor that's going to push that on a homeowner. My goal is to have a lot of clarity on the front end so that there aren't any. So we can see in certain projects, hey, when we did the inspection, your ledger board underneath the door is rotten. It's probably a good time to start thinking about a door or two.
Yeah.
While we're here, knock it out. And so that's nice. And then once it's framed before we deck it, there's 24%. And then at final completion, that's the only draw that we collect that is not paid before work. It's paid after completion. The 10%, and usually that 10% at that point, we've already job costed. We know exactly where we're at on productivity on the job. And it's really simple. We don't really get a lot of kickback on that. I can show them in the Tennessee.
Because they view you as a business, I'm sure, right? Like, I feel when people don't have to pay for the services or products they get, they abuse it, right? You give them an inch, they take a mile. They're like, well, we're only $1,000 committed. And we've lost jobs because they're not as pot committed as they need to be. Like they only have $1,000 of skin in the game on a $200,000 project. We're going through, the final steps of pre-construction, heading towards day one, and something happens and they back out. And it's like, what? If I had 100,000 of your dollars, you probably wouldn't be backing out right now, right? But $1,000, it just, yeah.
I mean, what you said there is the key factor is skin in the game. And when you're looking for someone qualified and you want to hire someone who's a professional business, we're not the bank. So that's one of the things I'll remind clients when they are a little hesitant to move forward with a 33% deposit. I say, well, we can skip that deposit, and I'll fund it for you, but I'm charging a fee for the financing. Otherwise, if you want to use your own money, you're going to be a whole lot more effective and not have a bunch of interest and it not become a headache for you. So that's the way it's discussed. But I mean, skin in the game for us, I mean, there's always someone less expensive. And I get it all the time. I talk to other contractors and you're like, man, I'm getting beat up by all these other small guys who aren't licensed, aren't insured, who just come in and just lowball. And I'm like, yes, but you need to be willing to educate your client that if they're looking for that, if they're looking for the guy that doesn't have skin in the game, there's the barrier to entry with no skin in the game is so low that he could jump and skip on the job pretty quickly. Wouldn't you want him to have skin in the game? Yeah. Wouldn't you want him to have a huge Google ad spend and a massive, Google business page and a lot of reviews and, credibility in the market so that when it doesn't go the way you're expecting, you can raise your hand and say, hey, Mr. Big Time Contractor, like your reputation's on the line here. You need to hold up your end of the bargain. And that's the skin in the game. And then in retrospect with the homeowner, like, yeah, if you've got 33% deposit, you're vested. Much like when we get into more complex projects, with our process, we're expecting to be able to come up with a solution on site pretty quickly for them and not have to go back to the drawing board at the office. And, you're not going to wait 3 or 4 weeks to get a price from us. We're going to have it right then and there. The only reason I would ever have to go back to the office at that point is this: it's simple. You got no idea what you want, and now I'm going to build this for you in 3 or 4 different components. So today you're going to pay me for that time, and it's going to cost a small percentage of whatever the top line revenue is estimated at, and we're going to then commit to one another, skin in the game, and then now I can apply my overhead staff and production process to get you through the tough decision as to what color, shape, size, and feeling do you want at the end of the day,
Yeah, you're leaving with a check, whether that's a project deposit or a design deposit.
Yeah, when you're not leaving with a check, and everybody's felt this before,
it's a waste of time.
You just kind of like it's heavy on you. You've got all these people that you're just hoping and praying someday commit to you, and it's like there's really no way to run a business that way. You can't hope and pray your way to success and profitabilities. You have to have real numbers, real figures, real people, and that's where commitment and skin in the game plays.
It's where sales comes in the game. And, I've gone through, which is probably more a me thing than a them thing, but 6 or 7 salespeople in the past 3 years.
You feel the same way I do then. I fail people constantly by not having a really good onboard or educational process.
That was part of my problem in the beginning. But I think if you have to fire anyone, it's not because they failed, it's because you failed, right? You failed somewhere along the line as a leader, as a business owner, whether that was onboarding, you didn't have clarity. It wasn't like, the onboarding wasn't smooth. They didn't have clear expectations, like deliverables weren't set, whatever that may be. Or the position, like sales, especially in design build in our world with high tickets, there's so much variability in the scopes of work that it's hard to make something repeatable because everything's custom. Like the input is, which is really weird because like the inputs are consistent in the process, but the outputs are very variable depending on the client, depending on the location, depending on the budget, depending on the overall scope. Is it structural, not? So like making a simple sales process is like, it's definitely doable. I think we've accomplished it. Like I had over 65 pages of SOPs, right? Way too many freaking SOPs. But I was like almost rage writing my brain into Google Docs and then trying to like translate what I do and just how I kind of just figure it out and how to translate that to a person who maybe gets it, but they want it and they're capable of it, but they just need to get it, And so I wrote all these SOPs, blah, 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 bang, bang, bang. Here's like from the day you wake up and tie your shoes in the morning all the way through the job sold. Here's what you do, step by step. And that was like 3 years ago. And then I go through my first batch of salespeople who obviously it wasn't a fit for whatever reasons. I rewrote every single one of them again. This time, built out a process plotting map. The one that I share pretty often because I'm proud of it and it's awesome. And it actually works really well. Even with client facing, it's a great visual for clients to see like all the steps of what goes on. But I took that and it's like, okay, well, there's 156 steps here. There's going to be a process for every department, right? So breaking it down to change of accountability. My CSR in the front end, she's the CEO until the job walk happens, right? Client experience, follow-up, scheduling, all the pre-questions, everything. That's her. She's the CEO of that department. And then the salesperson, set 2, they're the CEO from the consult to the contract signing, right? And then phase 3, the project manager from contract signing to COC, right? And then it get kind of simpler. It's like, okay, well, I only really have to worry about these 3 positions, and they're in charge of everyone under them or adjacent to them. So then I wrote just playbooks for those 3 departments, those 3 positions. And then those playbooks, now my sales process playbook is 4 pages, right? It's super freaking simple. It's outcome oriented. It's action first. It's report back, fail fast, shoot first, aim later, which is basically like my life motto. Super simple, right? Same thing with the CSR. It's like desired outcome, and then here's some proven steps to get there. But if you have a better way that's faster and people like more, do it. Right? It's a playbook, right? We just want to score a touchdown. I don't care if you run a dive up the middle or a swing pass or you do a flea flicker. I don't care. Score the freaking touchdown, right? And there's some proven plays that work, and here they are. Here's the role plays. Here's the videos. Here's all the resources for you. But you be you. Go be authentic. One of our core values here is authenticity. Go be yourself, right? It'll work out as long as we meet this desired outcome. So that's how we tried to simplify it. What I'm interested to hear from you, though, is like how you guys did that, because in our tile company as a subcontractor, single trade, it can literally be half a page.
Yeah.
Right? Like it literally can. It's repeatable. The sales process is repeatable. The installation process is repeatable. The methods, there's only 3 methods to do it, right? There's not 30. So what did you guys do to really get to a scale where you have people following a predictable, repeatable process? How did that look?
I mean, mapping, right? That's the first part of it. Yeah. And identifying bucketized responsibilities. Luan talks about it really simple in his podcast. Get biz, do biz, get paid, right? And I look at it in like 4 different ones. So you've got to be able to obviously get your ideal client over and over again. So you got to have a really good marketing approach. So whether you do it or you hire a completely different organization to handle that for you, to continue to bring you the same ideal customer over and over again, once you can effectively do that repeatably, and it's going to cost you because you're not doing it in-house. So you do that.
I have a note about that where we're doing something cool I want to talk about later.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's the simple initial part. And then from there, the sales process, you really have to be able to get to your client quickly, educate them, and go out there with the intent to educate, not close deals, just educate. Get there first. Be the first person. I like to be the first person because it educates them on what they can expect a real contractor to provide them, the clarity of scope, the detail, the process. A simple approach, clear communication, defined project timelines, responsibilities, the service model, focusing on the customer's journey, not as much of like what we're getting out of this, but what they're going to get out of it. What fails really is just like over promising on, I think, like luxury features that you think you can do, but you haven't done. And it becomes more detailed to where you really may not have all of the resources. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board and coach your people back in the office on, hey, this is what I sold them. It's a little different than the last one. Well, a little different means a lot more time, right? Yeah. So just do what you do best, really. And I think when you niche down like we did, you dominate. You really start to see that there's not many other people going into a homeowner's kitchen table explaining the reason why they would hire a company that has people in a process and less of these fancy tools and estimators and extremely drawn out processes, because we're we're like very proud of what we've faced as business owners. We've faced a lot of adversity. We've pivoted so many times, and we look back at where we came from when we go, man, we're badasses. But your homeowner doesn't see all that.
Yeah.
Right. They really don't care either. They just know that you have the ability to give them what they want, and it's your responsibility to make them feel important throughout the process.
So, like in simpleton terms, go back to the niches. There's riches and niches type of framework. Like, why? Why is that the case, right? Like, treat me like I'm 5 years old. Why are there riches and niches? What are the benefits of niching down instead of just being an a la carte, all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet?
Well, I mean, we've all been to the a la carte, all you can eat. It's got the chicken wings, it's got the lo mein, but I mean, cheesecake. You may look at that lo mein, it's been sitting there for 3 hours, yeah. Right? I'm not eating that. I don't know whose fingers have been in that, right? I mean, it's simple. And when you go to a nicer restaurant and it may be a little bit more expensive, when you order it, you're watching the guy throw the oil in the wok. He's preparing it right before your eyes. Like it's genuinely, it's got heartfelt, inputs. And when you get really dialed in, like he's not adding a lot of crazy complexity to it. He's got the ingredients sitting right next to him. He does the same lo mein over and over and over again in the same wok oil. Like that's the trick. And I think for us where we're at, there are a lot of deck boards out there. There's a lot of ways to build. There are so many different things you can do to try and be fancy and creative and elaborate. However, and I'm not saying that people don't deserve that. When you have a client that truly values quality and wants features that are custom to their project, it's still possible to do them. But very rarely is someone coming to me going, I got to have this exact product. I got to have the framing done this exact way. What they're asking for is, hey, we want a quality product that is done right so that we have peace of mind that we know it's safe. And we really don't want to lift a finger doing it because we don't know what we're doing. And we really need someone to help walk us through this process. And at the end of the day, we want to work with somebody who we value and get educated from on the front end. They'll shake our hand then. And then when we walk away from the project, we can shake their hand then. And it's still just as great of a relationship then. That's super important. And, simplifying. I mean, when we were doing bathrooms, I listened to so many contractors talk about how they go through selections and allowances. And without having a full-blown projector screen to present to them a high-level presentation on why and how and, the all of the certifications and accolades that come with doing things a certain way, I'd lose them. It's way over their head. And I still feel like sometimes when we go into a complex project, in 30 minutes, you can't get their attention for much longer than that. Their eyes glaze over. They really don't care about the BVLZ bracket that's required to connect through Brick Ledger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's geeking out on engineering that is completely unnecessary.
Sometimes those clients are fun though. Like when you have, we have a client who's like upper level at Simpson Strong Tie, and we're doing his project. There's some structural components. We're talking through like the different hardware we're putting in and all this, and like he knows it like the back of his freaking hand, right? And so like I'm talking to like this dude knows, and he's using nomenclature that I am not even familiar with because I'm not in the Simpson Strong Tie little community world. Like, yes, we use their products. It's spec'd on every set of plans we have. But, like, I'm like, yeah, HDU, it's a hold down, right? HD, whatever, 4, 6, 8. Like, how big's your lumber, right? Like, I know how to read your little acronyms, but he's like, ESQCC, TBs, this. I'm like, okay, bro. Like, I need a – anyways – sometimes it's fun when your client's just as big of a nerd as you are and you get to really geek out. I love that. That's good.
Yeah, but I mean, I would still question a guy like him and the whole process. Why me then? Like, if I don't know as much about this particular product as you do, what is it that hiring us is going to do for your experience? right? I mean, the reality is very few contractors are going to know the engineering specs on anything they're using. They're just using it because that's what the engineering requires. That's it. And if you want to get into the technical data, let me email you the link to it, and you're welcome to go through it. If you have questions, I'll give you a tech support line you can call.
Question on decks. Is a lot of your engineering prescriptive to where it's like highly repeatable and you can just like get that prescribed engineering set, or is it a lot of custom engineering?
Yeah. And I mean, technically in most areas, you're not required to have an engineered spec drawing. In our area.
But what about like helical piers, all that? Like you can just use the manufacturer's
there's a standard
spec
for those and where they are necessary, but you're not required to use a helical pier on a deck. It's overkill. You're over engineering sometimes for certain things, and that's one of the things I'll tell a homeowner. Like, the reality is, if this is the standard for engineering, I'm putting a 3 times safety factor to it by adding these components. So like 100%. Normally I'm not using anything smaller than a 2x10, where I could easily get away with a 2x6. I just don't. To me, it's like, what's the extra cost to build this with a 2x10 and then build it to where it's like there's absolutely no reason why any of this should have any deflection, and those types of things. And so same thing with helical piers. Like, I mean, when we go in, the engineering behind that, it's a 3 times safety factor.
That's how I feel about our jobs too, man. Like, I want to do engineered 2x6 materials for all my exterior studs, right? Like, the price of that is astronomical, but you know what? That thing's going to last forever, man. Like, I want to build things that withstand the test of time, where people look at it and they're just like, geez, like, that is very well done. Like, that is impressive. Even to the untrained eye, that just looks like impressive.
You still get, this is my approach to that, and the same thing I was doing when I was in the interior world. We overcomplicate a lot of this by adding our interests. So, perfect example, like all of the trade shows that we can attend every year to learn about the new products, to learn about the new tools. Well, let's face it, man, every year there's a lot of cool stuff that comes out. Don't get me wrong, and I'd love to be able to try and implement some of it at some point, but simple sells. And when it's all really serving the same goal. It's accomplishing the same thing. So if we really just focus on that, I can serve a vast majority of the population that doesn't necessarily have a bunch of questions about how it's getting done. It's more to do with what is it going to make me feel like when it's done. People don't go buy a 911 Carrera GT3 RS because they geek out on all the engineering to see if the car's balanced, weighted from left or right, or they literally go, when I drive this car, I can't wait to see how many people stare at me. I mean, I'm going to be rolling down the road. It's loud. It's fast. One of the funny things I'm starting to see now on social media is, a couple of the car gurus are talking more about how, the 911 GT3 RS is a cool car, but it's not realistic for an everyday driver. So just go buy the 911T. You're going to have a more comfortable approach. It's just as fast. It's not track ready, but who's going to drive a track car on the roads daily anyway? And, why would you wait forever for it? Well, it's vanity. It's, how does this make me feel when I'm the only one that's got one in my local market, right? And that's, I think, when you start talking about interior innovations or decks, it comes down to, man, once this deck's done, what's your neighbor going to think about this? How is that going to make you feel?
How's your neighbor barbecue going to look, when everyone comes over on your deck?
That's right. And that's one of the first things I think a lot of people tell me after we leave. It's like, you're never going to believe I had my neighbor over, and he was just like going over the whole thing thinking, man, this is amazing. Even engineers talk about it. We did one last year, and the engineer was just like infatuated with all of the components in detail and was asking questions to stuff I didn't have answers to. And I just said, this is the reason we do this is because this is the right way to do this. That's why. To get you the best quality product. And the engineer next door came over and was like, man, this is amazing. Like, you don't see this in commercial work. And I'm like,
they're animals.
They are. They really do just feed on details and stuff like that. So, but for a business owner and one that's trying to really build a structured process so that it's scalable to where, you can easily coach it up within your organization, it needs to be So plain Jane.
I just thought
Third grade.
about like the old kind of saying that you would hear from contractors, at least that I would hear, is like the best marketing is quality work. You have a good name, your name's tied to quality, work will keep coming through the door. You don't need a marketing budget, which, in a lot of ways that was true, like in the 60s, the 70s, 80s, even 90s. And even today, the whole point of the marketing, and this is a strategic segue because I want to talk about what we're doing, but it's all about building trust, right? Like the best lead is from another client who said they did such a good job. Here, best friend, you should use them too, right? There's already that built-in trust, and that's the whole point of marketing, is to instill that trust into complete strangers and have them dive into your repository of information about your company and testimonials, previous projects. And I think too, you talked about like niching down scope of work wise. I think even niching down vendors and product offerings is an intelligent thing to do as well. Maybe not intelligent, but very smart, because you want to be deeper, not wider, right? Even in your relationships with your vendors, like you're going to get the best pricing if you use decorators. Every single project, all we use is decorators. That's it, right? Or all I use is Trex, or all I use is XYZ brand. Because at the end of the day, too, all these new products and things, like we have shiny eye syndrome incredibly, because a new type of floating light comes out, and it's like, well, we'd never used this vendor before. We're going to buy this light this first time ever on this project, but we're not getting any deep discount, right? We're not getting any catered service because we don't have enough buying power with that vendor. 3, there's going to be a huge curveball to installation. There's like almost like shower valves. Like we can go get a Grohe, we can get a Kohler, we can get a Delta, a Moen, or a Brizzo, right? All of those valves have different specifications, right? They have different mud depths. They have different ways to hook up or to tie off the tub. Like there's a bunch of different things that go into every single valve. And it's like every single time we go on a project, our plumber gets a curveball, right?
Yep.
Like, what's going to happen in this shower? Well, let's read through all the specifications on this valve that is maybe a new model that we've never done before, whereas we could have just got like a universal Delta that we've done hundreds and hundreds of times and save 3-4 hours on installation and move right along, But the marketing side, like
do that, and there's a time to focus on what works,
100%. Yeah, which is why, like, I think of like decks, I think of bath conversions, HVAC, plumbing, like repair and service side. Like if like plumbing, for example, if all you use is Rheem water heaters, right? 1, you're going to get an awesome Christmas gift from Rheem because you spent so much money with their company. But 2, you're going to know every one of the installation quirks, and because there's always the pro how-to, right? There's always the little tip and trick that you get on the 100th time of installing the same unit where it's like, oh, wow, that was way faster doing it this way. Let's do it that way every time. And you save a half hour, right? Well, that half hour compounds over the hundreds of thousands of water heaters in your career. And that is a ton of savings, a ton of money back in your pocket by niching down your vendor. Because if you're a plumber that only does service and repair on water heaters that are tankless in homes that are years 2005 to 2025, and all you use is Rheem, well, like that is a niche of a niche of a niche, and you're going to be that dude, and you're going to be the most profitable service and replacement of Rheem water heaters in your market.
There's a lot of companies that started in the manufacturing industry that started just like that. They realized, okay, wait a minute here. Rheem does a great product, but we're only using Rheem. All of our eggs are in Rheem's basket.
Yeah.
How much does it cost to build one of these hot water heaters ourselves?
How do we have?
And before you know it, they're building their own.
Yeah.
I mean, what fails is constantly changing the process and introducing new services without infrastructure or overcomplicating the business model. And I think, like I said, there's a time to do that. There's a time to actually do what you do best over and over and over again, rinse, repeat. And when you're new, 3 to 5 year business, and you don't have something you can rinse and repeat, like, a technical service that you offer over and over and over again, or that's the cash cow, right? Mm-hmm. So when you think about an 80-20 rule, what in your business produces 80% of the revenue and what produces 20%?
Yeah.
And the 80% should be the cash cow. It should be the one that you're able to literally go out there blind and operate profitably over and over and over again. And that should be who your ideal client is.
Well, it's one thing you said there, bringing something to market that you didn't have the infrastructure to back. And I think of like, one, if you look at like a traditional like SaaS or tech company, or it's no different than us when we go to market. There's some different variables, but the premises are the same. One, how do you establish product market fit, right? Like if I go start bath conversions tomorrow, how do I know there's a fit in my immediate market, right? Well, we can do qualitative, quantitative, research. We can go through all these different things, or you can just be like bath conversion. You see, there's Rebath, there's Jacuzzi, there's all these other players. It's like, well, if they're here, there's smoke, there must be fire, right? Okay, cool. We'll have fit. It's a service. People want bath conversions. Well, next, what's our go-to-market strategy? Right? Like, what's the infrastructure look like behind this to actually sustain, XYZ forecasted projections? Like, if we go out there and we put $1,000 in the Google machine, $1,000 in the Meta machine, and let's say we have XYZ conversion and it's this cost per click, and we get this many leads out of it, and this is our close rate, this is our average job size. Okay, so we're going to sell, 25 bathrooms off that $1,000 of spend per marketing channel. How are we going to produce it? Who's going to manage it? Who's going to sell it? How are we going to sell on site? How are we going to one-call close bathroom conversions, right? Like, how are we going to build that process? But you can I'm trying to show how deep in the weeds you can get and overthink things.
Yes.
Or you can just go do some fucking bath conversions. Like you can make it really simple and just be like, well, got a logo, got a website, I'm going to put some money into the machine, and you know what? Even if I'm swinging the hammer for the first few of them, or I'm with a trade partner and helping them on site so I understand how to do it better, I'm just going to go do my first bath conversion.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to do my second, and then I'm going to do my 10th, then I'm going to do my 50th, then my 100th, and then I'm going to have 100 employees, right? What does that look like? So I think there's, once again, shoot, then aim. Just don't be naive. Know that there's going to be infrastructure and backend, but don't let the anticipation of all of this infrastructure and build out not even allow you to start. Like, go do the first freaking bath conversion. Go do your first deck,
Yeah, I think for those of you listening to this and thinking that you feel this way about where you're at with your business, you're struggling to get out of your own way in some sense. Not that you feel like you're overcomplicating, but there's just a lot of thought and decisions to make. Here's a small story about how I saw the deck business as a way to get away from some of the complexity that we were doing. It was like a few years ago, we had a few jobs towards the tail end of the year that were going to lead us through the slower season on the calendar. And at that point, I wasn't really operating with proper deposits. So people weren't committed to me. There was no skin in the game. We just had Sally prepping for us to come to their house in the end of the year to start a kitchen renovation. And randomly, Sally called and said, unfortunately, our financials have changed. We can't do this now. And so I had anticipated that on our books for the end of the year. And I had, coordinated scheduling efforts. I really had kind of put off a couple of other estimates to put her ahead of the deck. Well, unfortunately, that created this gap of about 2 months in our production schedule, and I was freaking out. Mm-hmm. And this was at a time when I wasn't spending a lot of money on advertising. I was really working off primarily word of mouth and some of the local marketing efforts that I had and some of the networking groups I was in. And so I was really like, okay, I've got bills, I've got payroll, and I was just a one-man show thinking through this, going, all right, how do I get out of this? And one of the partners I had helping me with some of the marketing stuff back then said, on a phone call, he said, look, let's make this really simple. You ever sat down and just wrote down 20 reasons why someone should hire you right now? And I go, well, no, but doesn't sound very hard. He goes, well, first of all, the first 10 are going to come really easy, right? You're going to know them really well. It's simple. Like, you show up, you do good work, you have a license. Those are all the easy ones. Get past the first 10 and you're going to probably find that it's a lot more complicated to answer that. And so I did. I got into that, and at about 12 or 13, I started realizing, like, what specifically makes us different? Why all of a sudden should someone hire me, or what are they looking for right now that I can offer them? Well, then the question was, what's a personal problem I was facing at that time in life with my own home that would possibly be something other people were facing? And it turned into this weird conversation. We were in the middle of renovating a powder room in my house, like adding an extra bathroom to make it a powder room. And I had family coming for Thanksgiving, and that powder room wasn't done. And I was starting to stress out about the timeline to get it completed. Well, then I started realizing, okay, hold on a second here. After drawing out 20 reasons why someone should hire us, I saw that that powder room is a pretty like monumental place in your home where people who have never been in your home get their first chance to be alone, to judge you on your sense of cleanliness and to judge you on your character of design aesthetic, right? Most people decorate their powder room for their guests when they come for Thanksgiving. It's the, like I said, it's the one place that needs an updating more often than not before a major holiday to make you feel good about it. So here I have a personal problem, niche down. So I put it out there as a marketing ploy. Hey, I am offering 5 open slots before Thanksgiving to do a full powder room renovation for $12,500. I'll come in there. I'll put a new vanity, toilet, new flooring, paint it all up, touch up the trim, new fixtures, and it'll be nice so that when your family comes for Thanksgiving, you can rest assured that your design aesthetics are, modern and it's clean. And that hit off. Like I filled my schedule right away doing those. And I think it got me thinking more about decks and the seasonality behind decks and how people really don't think about that deck until about January, February, when it starts to warm up. And they're like, man, we really need to fix those deck boards that are, rotten. They've got holes in it. If we want to use this thing this summer, it's just like a boat. Gosh, last year the boating season was great, but, our speakers in that boat, they could be better. Let's get those updated now so they're ready for springtime when we get the boat in the water and we can really play some music louder.
Yeah.
So they think like that. It's just like decks. If you meet the market with a product offering or a solution or service more often than not, you're going to find that the demand is always there. Every house that has a back door egress has some sort of a patio deck or something. And when it's lumber, it needs maintenance, and nobody does that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's where niching down made sense. And it really felt good to do it and immediately see that I'm not the only one that sees this. There's a huge community of other contractors that go into markets and say, all right, concrete.
Yeah.
What's the maintenance behind concrete, right? How long does concrete last? And what's the cost to stand up a concrete business to service your market, to be the guy that's the know-all solution for concrete needs?
Yeah.
No,
it's a good point. I always think too, and this is a shift that we had, very similar to you, how like people prep for summer, right? You're meeting the market where it's going to be, not where it's at. You're being equitable to the season or whatever demand there might be in the market's current state, but anticipating where it's going to be ahead of the competition, to be top of mind in your client when it does, because that that thought's going to pop in their head. Wow, we need to get our deck ready for this summer. It might happen in January, February, it might happen in April or May, but at some point they're going to have that thought and need to be top of mind, so they click your ad or give your Google My Business a click, And we did something very similar with our ad spend based around new construction. So we found that in the earlier parts of the year, demand does increase around the holidays for extra space, for entertaining space, and people are always kind of rushing to do their kitchen, bathroom, home addition, whatever it may be around that time. But the lead time to get through pre-construction is so long that if a lead comes in November, we're not ready to pump it out into production until April or May the following year. And then it's like another 3, 6, 9 months, depending on the build, to complete. So it's like, well, why don't we meet them in January, right? And then we can fill up all of Q1, Q2 with jobs sold in September. And so instead of spending that money in June for new construction and ADU construction, that's not going to happen until, next year anyways. Why don't we move it up to get those sales, 3-4 months sooner in our pipeline? and then be able to execute it in the following calendar year. And we did that last year, and we started this year with almost $2 million in January coming in the door.
Absolutely.
It was incredible. Just that one change, just being equitable to the market demands of what's it gonna be, not what it is right now. Because we could have spent all that money on kitchen, bathrooms, flooring, tiles.
Those are the sexy items, though, right?
Huh?
That's the sexy stuff. That's the high. You think about
it's not the
look
long
for
game.
the service, the high demand, like home maintenance niche services, or service contracts, custom stuff, like waste removal. I've seen so much stuff now. There's all these guys in our market that are buying dumpsters and renting them out, or buying bobcats and renting them out. And it's simple because, in our world, like one of the things I think about is a deck renovation package. Let me call. I have an ad right now. It's out, and it's simple. It's like, hey, your deck's in disarray. For $500, we'll come out there. We'll do a thorough inspection of it, and we'll replace up to like 12 deck boards for you while we're there. Okay. Well, the reality is, very few decks are a simple 12 deck board fix. Usually, if the deck boards are rotten, there's a lot more going on that they don't even know about. They're not educated well enough to see it. So I'll still put the deck boards down for them, and I'll give them a full write-up of what it would take to bring the thing up to code to be safe and sound for the whole family. Similar to that, like, talk about equipment rentals, like Bobcat rentals are expensive, but check this out. If you're a homeowner and you need a Bobcat to clear some brush, you're not going to go on Tuesday to rent that thing and use it on Tuesday afternoon and then return it Wednesday morning. You're not taking your time away from your job. So these companies now offer a weekend rate. You get almost a full Friday afternoon, a Saturday, and a Sunday. It's got to be back by Monday at 10 a.m. or we'll charge you for another day. But that's a simple service that now they've found that the homeowner needs more time, because they're not well versed in using this machine. They want a learning curve to figure it out. They need a couple extra days, and they're not going to put more than 100 hours onto the day. They're going to get worn out on an hour. You know? So
definitely, they're going to go in for their Sunday beers. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what they're thinking. They're having their buddy come up, man, I got a Bobcat for the weekend. Check this thing out.
Yeah, and I think that's once again, it comes down to knowing your ideal client, knowing your market. And that's the one thing that I said I was segueing about 20 minutes ago, but now I'm hopping back on that segue to get there.
This is your marketing.
Dude, I love it. It's not rocket science. We're not like redefining the mold or anything. It's actually just really standard common practice. But we have these heat maps of where all of our leads come in by city, county, like geographically. But with that, we have the personal avatar attached to it. So we know if, Becky in Brentwood, who makes $300,000 a year, and her husband's in finance, and they've owned this home for 10 years, and it's worth $700,000, and their proposal was $450,000. What percentage of the home equity was that? We know all this stuff, right? And then we can see, okay, did Becky close? Yes, no, right? And so market by market, city by city, county by county, we can start breaking down. And this is the difference between like qualitative and quantitative. I know I brought that up a little earlier, but you can think of like qualitative as quantity, where it's more broad, where qualitative is deep. It's like into the buyer DNA, right? And so we're going really deep with our best clients and our worst clients, and where our clients are coming from, like what they do, and just building a full DNA marker of this demographic and who's converting in this graphic, and then going back to the ad sets and campaigns that were served to that area at that time of closing to see who it attracted, right? And now we're getting to a point where we can strategically A/B test some of our highest converting campaigns that brought in Becky with maybe a similar demographic that's over in the East Bay, that's more like Silicon Valley and tech forward, and recreate that ad set over here to find people like Becky, but maybe with a different, job, maybe with a little bit different style home, different income, different type of neighborhood, different amenities around them. And so anyways, we were talking about how do you get that ideal client on repeat.
Yeah,
that's how we're going about it, is going really deep, qualitative research, demographic by demographic, geographic by geographic, and building those.
You find yourself in markets where like there are bigger companies that don't want to bother going there.
Yeah. There's a ton, like, so like where we're at in California, most of the cities we're in, the juice is not worth the squeeze. And you have to be in a very strategic location to be able to get 30, 40, 60 minutes away every single day. So like where we're at, we're right on a main corridor of two major highways, 120 and 99. 99 pretty much spans north-south California.
Yeah.
And the 120 connects you to the Bay and to the foothills. So like it's a really critical cross point, very similar to like 680 and 880 or 580 and 680 in the Bay, very similar. And you know what? We have two locations, and one is right on 580, 680, and one is right on 99 and 120, right? And I can get from Pleasanton to Berkeley in like 20, 25 minutes. Pleasanton to San Ramon, 10 minutes. Pleasanton to Fremont, 25 minutes. And then for the Central Valley location, I can get to Elk Grove, 35 minutes. I can get to Turlock, 25 minutes. I can get to Manteca, Tracy, all these other bigger markets, because in Ripon, where our kind of flagship location is, there's only like 25,000 people, you know, if that. I don't even know. There's not that many in Ripon. In Pleasanton, the little subsection of Pleasanton that we're in, there might be 100,000 people, 90,000 people in that little subsection. But in the surrounding areas, there's millions. Right.
Yeah.
But we're going to have to travel to get there. So it's like strategically planting your locations that are in more upscale commercial developments that's surrounded by residential. And so that was another thing, like location on a corridor within 5 miles. So we have the proximity for SEO to be really effective immediately. Because, you know, if on like Bright Local or whatever, your location, you're pretty much number one or two, even if you're not really trying on SEO, just because the proximity factor is so heavily weighted. So if you have like 2 or 3 reviews and 5-star rating, that 5 mile radius you own, right? Well, our 5 mile radius at our Pleasanton location is surrounded by $2 to $5 million homes. Wow. That were all built in the 90s, mid 2000s, all ready for remodel. And we get, and right now we're actually taking over a vast majority of that market in SEO. But long story short, like proximity wins. And then just being strategic with like, where's your market, right? Like we're not going to hit our $50 million goal hanging out in the Central Valley with a bunch of dairymen, right? Like dairymen are cheap.
We need to get that tech money. For swordfish. I mean, you got to plot your marks and know where you're at. And
then also the other problem that we've ran into that we're really weighing right now, this is one of the big decisions I'm going through on 26, 27 growth to meet my 3-year goal is that third and fourth location. Because where we're going right now, we're about 45 to 60 minutes from each location, each market that we're going to play in, right? So the easy move is going north 40, 45 minutes into the Sacramento market and start dominating that area, right? And then the second move is like, well, now that I'm already in Pleasanton, go 20, 25 minutes, maybe to San Jose, maybe to Mountain House or Mountain View, Palo Alto, like deep Silicon Valley, and open up there. Both high demand markets, high income earners, they will be successful. But then that fifth location, we kind of tapped out the heartbeat of California in the high capital areas. Do you go to LA? 6 hours away? Logistically, once again, infrastructure. How do you build out now for 3 years down the road when we make that push to LA or Orange County or San Diego? Or what if I go to Scottsdale? Because I really love golfing in Scottsdale. And I would love to have a location there and be there for 6 months and stand it up. Yeah. Or Vegas. I probably shouldn't live in Vegas, but I think it's a great market. And I think, everyone's saying it's the next Austin, Texas in the next 10 years is going to be Vegas with all the tech startups and capital they're pumping into there. So like those types of questions and thoughts. And then it all comes back down to, where is a concentration of my ideal client in my current market, right? Mm-hmm. Personalities, demographics, lifestyle, jobs, income, home value, all of that. Where's a concentration of that? Like Scottsdale, huge concentration. LA, huge. And you're kind of like, you can throw a dart in LA and hit a millionaire, right? Like it's not a big deal. If you go to LA market, and you do the basics, really simple things really well, you're going to be successful. Same thing in Los Gatos, same thing in Sacramento, same thing with San Francisco. It's just money's there, people are there. It's a service business. People need that service. But when you start going to like smaller or unknown markets, that's the first thing qualitative, quantitative research, compare that with your existing client base and where the parallels are, and then throw out some A/B tests in that market, and see what feedback you get. Like literally go burn like $5,000 in ads in that market just to see, what are my conversions? What type of clients are coming in? And then you can white label them and send them to another contractor, tell them you're too busy, build a backlog, whatever you want to do. But you need to have smoke before there's fire. And the best way to do have any type of smoke is marketing.
100%. I mean, and we get so high level in our conversations sometimes, and I think about where I originally came from. I didn't have a lot of this knowledge or really wasn't there yet to commit to those types of things financially. So it came down to just watching in areas of town. Like, you watch as companies do merger acquisitions, and, big thing you hear about right now is a lot of these, home service companies taking VC money and exploding into a new, completely different brand and blending into not only just a plumbing company, but now they're doing HVAC, plumbing, gas, electric. The reason is because there's such a demand, and it's a repeatable, scalable approach. These are boring problems that they're solving that people need done consistently, and they do it in a simple, repeatable way. They find the gap, right? They systematize it, and they focus on that service, and they make life easier for their customer over and over and over again. And that alone, right there, if you just take that little nugget, you could go on Facebook Marketplace absolutely right now, do a video, blast yourself out there. You're going to get some interests. People are going to have problems in their home, or they may have had a dripping faucet for the past 3 years that they're just not sure what it's going to take to fix it. Go out there with the intent to educate. You'll get the work. At that point. Just show up. You'll get the work. And you do that over and over and over again. That's how a lot of home service businesses start off. And you become like known on social media then by everyone as the person that's like, yeah, that guy's genuine. He showed up. He gave me enough information. He was definitely way more expensive after I did talk to him, but it's done right. I feel good about it. I'd recommend him. And that's what you need at first. Once you establish that, and I think you probably felt that early on too. Once you establish that credibility, and you now created the fact that you have the authority in your marketplace to educate, and people expect that when you show up. You're no longer selling anything. You're providing them the right solution, showing them examples of what they shouldn't do, and giving them the opportunity to make a decision if you're a good fit or not. And perfect. Time is of the essence. I can only do so many of these repairs this month. Let me show you what I can do today. It's scarcity. We really only have so many hours a day. Do you want this fixed now, or should we call you back in 6 months and see if it's still a problem for you?
Love it.
So I love it, dude. That's scalable. That's so simple.
It comes down to people, really. And I mean, that's a whole other hour. Because
people, and man, it's so crazy what I've been watching in the market right now. And you got our society is just full of negativity sometimes, and I hate that. I hate that people don't go in on themselves. I see it. They want to complain, but they're not doing anything to make it any better. So,
dude, actually, I had a guy interview maybe 2-3 months ago, and then he moved to Tennessee. Took a job in Tennessee for a builder, custom home builder. He's like managing 7 homes right now, and now he's moving back. Apparently, wasn't a good fit or something. And I'm going to interview him, and I was like, "Oh, a small world." I'm going to meet with my buddy in Tennessee. I don't know. I didn't ask really.
Probably the only 2 places. I mean, I don't hear a lot about
area.
what goes on in Chattanooga from a growth perspective as far as new construction and stuff like that. But I mean, it's definitely booming. All of East Tennessee, from as far north as Johnson City all the way down to Chattanooga and North Georgia, is a hot spot. I mean, we have a lot of
Jackson from Chattanooga, or is that
maybe
just a song?
That's the Chattahoochee.
Chattahoochee.
Yeah,
there's one. I don't. What do you know about the Franklin market? I got a buddy that lives out in Franklin, and Franklin, it's all ritzy.
Brentwood. I mean, that entire side of South West Nashville, essentially, there's it's a very pretty, you know, part of town. Most of that area is still booming. It's always been booming. There's a lot of older money that started, establishing themselves there 20, 30 years ago. That's now, and then that's where a lot of, if you really look at the country musicians and the people that have homes in Nashville, I mean, a lot of it's on that part of town, but I mean, that's not to say that there aren't other great pockets in Nashville. Nashville's such a big market, though. To approach it as a small business owner, you really need to have a big structure to take it on quickly. Like, it's really, one of the things my dad taught me, which I never really thought about until I was like later on in life, but you never want to be the middle guy. You want to be the small guy or the big guy. And I now look at Nashville like that, because if I started to do more in Nashville, there's definitely opportunity. The problem is that I would see myself bored with being the small guy, and I would try to take on more than I could perform, and would quickly find myself up against the mediocre middle road line and needing to try and accelerate myself to the big top dog, which that costs money and time and people. And that's a scary lift. And that's my own personal little fear I'm dealing with, where
just go raise like 50 million, hire out a staff, bring in the C-level, and go take it over.
Where's the go button?
It's your phone. There's so many things.
It's in the phone. Yeah. But again, I mean, I think if you're in the right market, you offer the right service, there's ways to do it. I mean, and it's been proven to me now, you can easily become the top dog in your market within 2 to 3 years if you really want it.
100%. Yeah. And I think it's really, there's something very attractive about being a big fish in a small pond. For like when we talk about, riches and niches and niching down, like I have a little bit different stance to where I want to own all the niches that are within my little vertical that I have in design build, which I'm actively doing. But it's kind of like you're going to be a billionaire or you're going to be homeless, and you just have to keep going until you find out. Yep. And it's kind of terrifying, but it's really worth it in a lot of ways. But I think that
from like a growth perspective, if you're the top guy in your market and you do more of whatever it is you do, think about the reputation, the word of mouth, that then the snowball of that. Let's say you do 400 of whatever it is you do this year, and your competitors are doing less than 50. Well, next year you're going to do 400 more. There's 800 raving fans running around town speaking your praise. Your competitor's only done 80.
Yeah. It really does come down to production capacity issues and people, because it's once again, the people. You can get out of so much shit and so much bad stuff if you just have good people taking care of other good people. And the reality is, not everyone we work with client-wise are good people. That's just the reality of the world. And we have to have a healthy skepticism about who we're getting in bed with here, because you might have a bunch of good people trying to do the right thing. But mistakes happen. And that if any contractor tells you they're perfect, walk away. We mess up all the time, right? But we have really good people and we make everything right. And we typically hit our timeline. We hit our budgets, Right. But when you come across like that one bad person as a client, it can be tough. And that's the hard part about scale, because it's not all referrals. It's not all warm leads. It's a lot of marketed leads, a lot of paid acquisition leads that you don't know who you're talking to yet. And there's been 100% times where I've had competitors set me up with leads, and it's a trap, and I've smelt it and I handled it, right? I've also had other people where it's like an insurance fraud situation, and they call us and we go out on site, and it's a total fraud. Actually, right now I'm getting summoned to go testify in a freaking court case over an insurance project I bid 3 years ago. And I'm like, okay, new rule, we don't take any insurance jobs. That's such a waste of time. So I think the biggest question mark to scale is good people and
you
how to mitigate the bad ones.
Delete the entire podcast.
Huh?
I said you just had all the roofers basically delete the podcast.
Good.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, and I'll tell you, and roofers that are listening that are hearing that approach to using insurance to minimize your business and keep it afloat is not a bad business model. But what you and I are talking about and the way that we develop our clientele and the way that we actually handle the dollars is a completely opposite process to the way they operate. And it's hard to explain.
Different.
And when I do it, I go, look, what we're talking about here is I get paid before we do the work. And they look at me like I'm crazy. And I go, but it's a matter of how we set this up to provide them an experience. A roof is a roof. Like, what kind of experience are they getting out of a roof?
Yeah.
They don't even see it half the time. Like, no one's ever going to go up there and look at that shingle that you just placed.
Well, it's your job. 3 to 5 day life cycle, where mine is like 3 to 5 months.
Yeah.
Completely different relationship. Like I can handle a bad person for 5 days. But you get in bed with a client and it's a 6-month pre-construction, another 3 to 6 month build. Like, you're a year with that person. One whole year, I'm in their home every single month, talking with them, talking with their family. And if they're a shitty person, that's not an environment, one, I want to be in, or I don't want my employees in that environment either. It's going to suck them dry. They're going to get burnt out of dealing with crappy people all the time.
We get so much of that where it's they're just wanting you to come out there so that you'll write a formal estimate so they can provide it to the insurance agency. They get the check and they never do anything about it. And now I'm charging for that. And then the other part of this that we get a lot of is because of the housing boom and a lot of people moving into this market, real estate agents calling. And the real estate agents are in a hurry to try and find a way to close a deal. However, the deck is in disarray and the new homeowner has no idea who to call. They're not even in the market yet.
Yeah.
So they don't even know who the contractors are to call. So this real estate agent's getting on the phone, calling me, asking for me to come take a look at a potential sale. They need to know what the repairs look like because it's a VA loan and it has to be perfect. And I'm like, cool, $500. I'll do another home inspection that the home inspector didn't do for you, which will consist of primarily all deck work. And that's the only way I can think about the right way to do it and without wasting a bunch of time because they're not going to move on it until that homeowner moves in. And even then, I'm not meeting the homeowner. They don't know who I am. The real estate agent can talk as much as they want about me, but may not even have a relationship with them. So it's really like knowing who your ideal customer is and knowing when to focus your time on the right people that have your money is so the trick. Yeah.
Well, I got to roll it up. I got to do work stuff.
Dude, me too. I got a full schedule today. It's crazy. Tuesdays have, like I said, become maxed out. So I love it.
Sweet, dude. Well, always great catching up and talking. This episode will be released tomorrow. Wow, Wednesday.
Boom. We're quick now. We're getting faster.
Dang. So you're listening to this on March 19th, 2025. Thanks for listening. Like, share, subscribe, comment, give it to a friend, give it to a contractor. Check us out on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and some of the unknowns. But we're out there. So thanks again.
2025. Let's go.